Welcome to the 2026 version of Cutter's World Cup Stories. I'm there. Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to this thing. And we will be going through one World Cup video every week for 10 weeks until we get to the big event. And I did calculate perfectly. So today is April the 4th. So it's 4 in April, 5 in September, May, and 1 in June. There will always be every Saturday, if you must know. So every Saturday there will be a episode of World Cup Stories and all that. Of course, I will be going over the topics, so expect these topics. The 2026 World Cup groups being finished, and my honest predictions. There will be a story about Canada's World Cup journey in both 86 and 2022, the US's journey as they are co-hosts too, and Mexico's World Cup journey, and of course, my beloved England. We'll get a World Cup video. 6 will be about Scotland, the most unlucky nation in World Cup history, if you will. We will review the 2022 tournament, and we'll have 3 episodes talking about the biggest World Cup story or stories in each of the World Cups from 1930 to 2022. So everything will be pretty much like voiceover. So you'll see like a little bit of a thing like this, like live action, but that'll be all I'm going to be indulging in. So anyhow, let's begin Cutter's World Cup Stories 2026. Express yourself. You just can't go wrong now. Express yourself. They need to know it. Express yourselves. It's never wrong if you can do it all the time. Soccer brings the world in motion, and Canada's a co host now. Soccer's got the world in motion. US and Mexico will host too. Express yourself. It's one on one. Express yourself. 48 nations all. Express yourself. You can't go wrong because this might be the best World Cup ever. Soccer's got the world in motion. That I know. It has to be true. Soccer is big sport, and some stories are here for you. Behold the glory of the 12 World Cup groups times 4 makes 48. So the World Cup is expanded to 48 teams this year. Usually it's 32, but before then we had 16 teams. So the World Cup qualification routes have been done. Like we've got the European playoff teams. We have the whole interconfederational playoffs, and now we have 48 nations. There are some nations that will compete for the first time, and some that will compete for the first time in a long time, and some who are just basically always there for the party. So we're going to go group by group, and we're going to give you I'm going to give you my takes on each group and how things will work. So we're heading to Group A, and Group A is one of the groups of the co-host, and this co-host has been part of 2 World Cups hosting, 1970 and 1986. It's none other than Mexico, as the Family Guy joke is there. So Mexico, they have a great league, Estadio Azteca, the great stadium that it is, hosting the 1970 and 1986 World Cup finals. And now Mexico gets to co-host. So that's technically their 3rd time hosting the World Cup. Mexico as a nation has had some decent performances. In fact, one fact I never knew until Mexico got eliminated in the group stage in 2022 was the fact Mexico had never failed to get out of the group stage. The last time they failed was 1978. They did have a few World Cups they didn't qualify in, but the fact is, when they were in, they actually made it past the group almost every time since 1978 until 2022. They're paired up with South Africa, who hosted the World Cup as well in 2010, Bafana Bafana bringing the World Cup to Africa for the first time ever. And that country actually competed also in 98, if memory serves me right. And I think 02 or they were close. But yeah, the 2010 World Cup host South Africa becoming the first of 2 World Cup hosts to miss out on the knockout stages. There's also the Korea Republic, aka South Korea, who have had some great players, including Hyun-Min Son from Tottenham. I think he plays for Tottenham or somewhere else. But anyway, he's playing. And Korea has had some great moments, including hosting the 2002 World Cup alongside Japan and getting to the semifinals, losing the third place game to Turkey, but they deserved it. South Korea kind of got in controversially 2002, beating Italy and Spain by controversies. And the fourth team of this group is Czechia. Well, what they call themselves now, what people call the Czech Republic. So the Czech Republic are a pretty good soccer nation too. They were one of the highest in 2006 in the top 10, but they fell flat. They got to the 96 Euro final against Germany, losing on a golden goal. But, you know, Czechia's got some decent players in their past, like Peter Cech and Peter Nedved, or Pavel Nedved, excuse me. But yeah, so Group A should be kind of Mexico and Korea should be the top two. Czechia and South Africa will battle for the other spot. All right, Group B will be where there's another co-host, and of course, you know my home and native land, Canada. We're not perfect, but we're one of the best in the world in quality stuff. Nevertheless, Canada will be in their third World Cup as a competing team, 1986 and 2022, and we will talk about Canada as a whole in a future World Cup story about their 2 World Cup appearances. But the fact of the matter is that Canada is a co-host. A lot of people are shocked that Canada will be hosting a soccer tournament and all that. I know for Europeans, I'm going to refer to soccer because as a North American, that's how I refer to it. But Canada has had some great teams. Major League Soccer, we have 3. We have Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. Toronto's won a title. Vancouver was close last year to winning the title, but failed. And Montreal, I don't think it's ever been to a MLS final. But Canada, we have had a good story of World Cup qualifying and all that, especially in 2022, topping the whole CONCACAF group. We have Bosnia, who shocked Italy in the one-game playoff. While Czechia, I forgot to mention in Group A, took out Denmark to get in a playoff. But Bosnia beat Italy, and it was like a massive shock to see Italy out of the World Cup in any capacity whatsoever. But yeah, Bosnia's in. They had Edin Dzeko for 2014. There are some Bosnian players and all that. There might be a little bit of controversy. Who knows? Qatar is also in Group B. That's the country that, alongside South Africa, had hosted a World Cup but failed to get into the knockout stages. That's 2022 Qatar, the previous World Cup host. So Qatar is trying to improve themselves. They do have a decent team, but beating the world is not that easy. And the fourth team in this group is the odds-on favorite Switzerland. And the fact is that Switzerland has great defense. They have some goal scoring. They're known for their defensive soccer, and many tournaments actually going through the knockout stages going through the group stages without giving up a goal, but not scoring a lot themselves. But Switzerland is in the top 20, and they are the odds-on favorite in Group B. I think it'll be Switzerland and Canada, who will be automatically top 2. I think Canada, it's no excuse this time. Because with Bosnia being Italy, Canada has no excuse not to get second. All right, so Group C has the main team, and it's not a co-host. It's actually one of the most impressive teams in World Cup history, and that's Brazilian Wax. That's right, Brazil, 5-time champions. If I remember off the top of my head, 58, 62, 70, 94, and 2002. Yeah, Brazil's been struggling the past few World Cups, not getting to the semifinals. Well, they got to the semifinals in 2014, and look what happened. They got taken out by Germany in one of the most embarrassing semifinal losses of all time. But you got to remember, Brazil, they hosted the World Cup in 2014, and they looked like they were going to have a party and all that. They hosted in 1950 as well and lost famously to Uruguay in the final game that ruined their chances to be World Cup winners, and then they changed their kit from white and blue to yellow and blue and exiled some Brazilian players off that 50 team. 90, yeah. So Brazil hosted in 2014 and fell to Germany. They couldn't even win third. They lost to the Dutch. Morocco is in. Morocco's a surprise package of 2022. I will admit, they were definitely the Cinderella story. Getting to the semifinals for the first time as an African nation, Like no African nation had ever been to the semifinals. Ghana in 2010 were close, but Morocco did that. In fact, in the knockout stages, Morocco had gone through the round of 16 in the quarterfinals without giving up a goal in regulation. The funny thing was, the last team to score a goal on them in regulation in the group stage was Canada. It was an own goal, but it mattered. Yeah, Morocco shocked a lot of people by getting to the Final Four. You got Haiti, who are not first time representation. People don't realize that, but no, Haiti in 1974 got in through the North American group and actually put a scare in Italy, scoring the first goal off of Dino Soft in over 1,100 minutes. Italy did win the game, but yeah, Haiti scored a pair of goals. And of course, that country's troubled by earthquakes and everything else. And of course, you got yourself the big name is Scotland. Scotland has been to 8 World Cups, have never played a knockout game. Never. Silch, nada. They have a chance this time. I think that Brazil and Morocco are definitely in. Scotland will have to probably fight for third place and get one of those 8 third place spots to get in. But I think that Scotland will sneak in. So the fact of the matter is that, the funny thing is with Scotland is these 3 countries, they have played these guys before. Scotland's been in a group with Brazil in 1990 and 98. Morocco, I think, in 98, they were together, and they were together with Haiti in 1974. No, sorry, they weren't together with Haiti in 74. What am I thinking? But nevertheless, Scotland has a chance to get to their first knockout game in 9 appearances. All right, so Group D has the USA. Born in the USA. They have a lot of troubles and all that internally. Not going to speculate on things. They are a co-host alongside Mexico and Canada. They hosted the 94 World Cup. Of course, they had to promise like a North American Soccer League, which was Major League Soccer in 1996, to get the World Cup bid. They beat Brazil for that mark. And then, this tournament still holds the record for highest average attendance per match. And this in 94, this was a 24-team tournament instead of 32 or even 48. So, that was big. In 94, the U.S. got taken out in the quarters by Brazil. They did beat Colombia, thanks to Andres Escobar's own goal, which actually killed him by gamblers. Group D also has Paraguay. I think, to me, Paraguay is kind of an iffy team. I mean, they had a legendary goalie in Jose Luis Chilifert, but other than that, I can't really think too much about that country. Australia, who for years were cursed of getting close to World Cup qualification but failing. 93, they beat Canada in a Oceania CONCACAF playoff, but they would face Argentina for a spot in the World Cup and fell. But Australia has been decent and all that, qualifying for the World Cup every time since '06, I think. And then you got Turkey, who won over Kosovo and Romania to get this spot. My coworker Julia will be happy to see Turkey in, and this is only the 3rd time Turkey's been to a World Cup. 1954 and 2002, the other 2. 54, they put a scare in some countries. In 2002, they actually shocked the world by winning 3rd place. I mean, who would have put Turkey in their semifinal cards if you're not from Turkey? So anyway, yeah, Turkey could be big. I think this is definitely U.S. and Australia's group. Turkey will probably fight for 3rd place and get it. All right, next is Group E, and the top team from Group E is Deutschland. Deutschland. Of course, I can't use the old lyrics because those are inappropriate. But yeah, Germany is the head of the class in Group E. 4-time winners, if I remember correctly: 1954, 1974, 2014, and 1990. That's it. Those are the four times they've won. Well, as West Germany, all of the 4 times, I do believe, except for 2014, they were just pure Germany. Anyway, Germany has got a great World Cup history and all that. I have German background on my mother's side, but anyhow, they're looking pretty good. You got Carousel. I know it's hard to pronounce that country's name, but yeah, this is a debutante in the World Cup. Carousel has never been there. They're actually known more for their Little League World Series exploits in the mid 2000s, watching that on ABC, Carousel. And, the home of Andrew Jones and a few other players in Major League Baseball. But they're playing soccer. They got through the North American playoffs and all that, and it was just shocking. They even we're ahead of Jamaica, which is hard to believe. The third team in Group E is the Ivory Coast, or Cote d'Ivoire, just to give their official name. But yeah, the Ivory Coast, Didier Drogba, legendary Ivory Coast player. They've had some decent African Cup of Nations results and a lot throughout. And then the fourth team in this group is Ecuador, kind of the dark horse, I think, and all that. So yeah, I don't have much about Ecuador's past, but I think Germany and Ivory Coast will get top two. Ecuador will fight for those third place spots. Okay, so now we go to Group F, and that will be led by the Dutch, as in the Netherlands, who have had some World Cup qualification problems in the past few tournaments, but they are in. They got into the quarterfinals last time, but yeah, the Dutch have been pretty good. The Dutch actually hold the record for most finals appearances without the title. They went to the finals back to back in 74 and 78, losing to West Germany and Argentina, respectively. And in 2010, they got taken out by Spain in extra time. But yeah, the Dutch have 3 runner up finishes, the most by a team that hasn't won a World Cup. You got Japan or Nippon, kind of have a soft spot for Japan, like, post war. But yeah, they got the baseball stars like Shohei Ohtani and Roki Sasaki, and of course, Canada and Blue Jays representative Okamoto. But yeah, Japan's soccer team has done pretty well. They have been to every World Cup since 1998. The last World Cup they missed was 94 in that sub tournament in Doha, and they called it the agony of Doha. Since then, they have yet to miss a World Cup. Japan's been pretty good. They had that choke against Belgium in 2018, notwithstanding. The fans are polite. They clean up the stands after every game and all that. Very polite. You got Sweden, who won a qualifying game against Poland to get in. So Sweden will get into Group F and all that. I know my sister-in-law Marlene will be pissed off because Poland missed out. Sweden's a good team. Slacken. They had that shock third place finish in 1994. People didn't think Sweden would be in the Final Four in '94, but they were. So Sweden, great team and all that. And they took out Italy to make the 2018 World Cup. So anyway, they're kind of a dark horse. And then you got Tunisia from Africa. They've been good. I think this is their second World Cup appearance or third, can't remember. But yeah, Tunisia. So I think this has to be the Dutch, and I think it's a toss-up between Japan and Sweden for second place. Of course, there's controversy with Sweden because Sweden actually sucked in the World Cup qualifying group worse than Kosovo, who got taken out by Turkey. And worst of all, well, Sweden got in because they won what they call the Nations League thing, like Pool C. So because they won a Nations League thing, they got into the playoff rounds and all that. And that's why they got in. I feel bad for Kosovo. I really do. In Group G, we have ourselves the main team is Belgium, Belgique, as they call it, Belgian waffles. Belgium, for a while in the 2010s, were like top 5 and were known for being underperformers slash overachievers and that they just couldn't do well. I mean, they lost to Wales in the Euro knockout stages in 2016. That made them look like fools. Belgium did take third place in 2018, beating England and all that, but, they should have went to the final. Belgium always in that big rivalry with France. They did decently. They've had some great players like Michel Prohum and Alberts and a few other people, and Eden Hazard. Egypt is the second team in this group. Mo Salah of Liverpool is their main guy. Egypt had been to a few World Cups before 2022 when they qualified. 2018 they qualified 2018. Mo Salah led them and brought Egypt to the forefront as a soccer nation. Then you got Iran. Of course, the controversy is Iran coming to the World Cup? Are they not coming to the World Cup and all that? But of course, now it looks like it's set in stone that I guess, I don't know what the process is. Do you bring Italy to the World Cup if Iran can't? But you can't because, the sectional. So I think it'll be United Arab Emirates, if anything. But yeah, Iran, we all know about the problems. 1986, they went to the World Cup, and no, sorry, that's the other IRA Q team. That's Iraq. 98 is when they played the United States in a peaceful game and all that, and beat the Americans. And then Group G's fourth team is New Zealand, the Kiwis. New Zealand has had a decent World Cup appearance. 1982, they actually ruined Scotland and their chances to get to the knockout stages. We'll talk about that when we talk about Scotland. We also they actually in 2010 prevented Italy from getting out of what they call the easiest group of a World Cup champion in history. So yeah, New Zealand could do it. I think it's going to be Belgium, and I think it's going to be New Zealand who sneaks in over Egypt and Iran. It's going to be a dogfight for second place and an automatic spot. On to Group H, and it's led by a team that a lot of people know that were called overachievers slash underachievers, and that was Spain. In 1964, they won Euro, and then their next big tournament win was Euro 2008. Spain was always known for having great players like Barcelona and Real Madrid, great Spanish Premier League, that La Liga, but they just couldn't do the job when they needed to. But in 2010, they proved everyone wrong in the World Cup, winning the World Cup over the Dutch and having some good times. The second team in this group is a shock. It's Cape Verde from Africa, the Cape Verde Islands. Lots of people don't know where they are. Yours truly one of them. But yeah, Cape Verde shocked a lot of people in African qualifying to get into this thing, and they are debutantes like carousel. Third up is Saudi Arabia, who seems to always get in through the Asian qualifiers and all that, the Middle Eastern team and all that. Saudi Arabia had one massive magical moment in 94 when Saeed Al scored a solo goal against Belgium to get Saudi Arabia to the 94 knockout stages. They've had some good moments, except for 2002 when they got butt whipped 8-0 by Germany. They did beat Argentina in the first game of the group in 2022, but that didn't do them any good. And a South American team by the name of Uruguay comes in to finish off Group H. Uruguay actually won 2 World Cups without losing a game, 1930 and 1950. They were hosting the 1930 World Cup when they got the title over Argentina. They didn't compete in 34 and 38 because travel to Europe is not as sophisticated as it is now in the 2020s as it was in the 1930s. 1950, the tournament was in Brazil, so they got to be in their own continent. They shocked Brazil, silencing the Maracana Stadium and winning a World Cup. Of course, Diego Forlan, great player, but of course, Luis Suarez with his fighting of Chiellini of Italy, and also the hand save against Ghana that was stupid. But yeah, Uruguay. I think for sure it's Spain and Uruguay. Saudi Arabia will make a run for it, but I think Spain and Uruguay are top 2. So Group I comes into play, and this will be the one with the big team at the top, and that's on France. France winning the World Cup and all that. That's amazing what they did in 98 in front of their home country and all that. They also won the World Cup in 2018, taking care of Croatia, and Mbappe was a big name. In fact, France got all the way to the final, losing to Argentina in 2022, and what they call the greatest World Cup final game of all time. And you know what? I don't disagree with that. I mean, when you had a 4-3 game that ended in a penalty shootout, you had Mbappe put up hat tricks and Leo Messi putting up a pair of goals. That was just quite magical. It was a two-man show. France, I feel so bad for, but they may have had a good group. But France may not like the team below them, and that's Senegal. Everyone should remember that in 2002, Senegal played France in the first game of the World Cup because that was the World Cup hosts got the first game. And the World Cup winners got the thing. But yeah, France beat Senegal, and of course, Papa Boubou Diop, who's now deceased, scoring that big goal, and John Motson making a big row about it. But yeah, Senegal shocked everyone. 2002, they even got to the quarterfinals. They actually beat Sweden on a golden goal by Henri Camara, and then Turkey got them back with a golden goal of their own. So yeah, Senegal's been to a few World Cups since. They actually lost a knockout spot in 2018 based on fair play rules because them and Japan, they couldn't decide how to break the tie with those two. But that's what happened. They lost on fair play points. The third team is Iraq, who won their little interconfederational thing on Tuesday. And of course, that's just as controversial as Iran, as much as the U.S. is concerned and all that. So yeah, Iraq is practically going to be a team in the World Cup. They were in 1986 with the Hussein's boys being part of the Iraqi Football Association, and Iraq just basically being terrible and being tortured. And then you got Norway, who are kind of a what they call a surprise package. You know that '94 they shocked the world by actually beating England in the group and the knockouts part of Euro of the European stuff to make it. And Norway's had a few good chances, and they have one of the best strikers in the world, Irving Holland of Manchester City. So personally, I think it's going to be France and Senegal. Norway could challenge for second. That's just what I'm saying. All right, so now we have Group J, J for Jeff, but it should be Group A because three of the four teams have the same start with the same letter, and then it's the A group. A. When I look at the other groups and all that, and the starting letter of the nations, I see one more. Yeah, there's one. There's only one group that has two teams start with the same letter, and that's in Group K. But anyway, Group J is the A group with J for Jordan. Anyway, Argentina, the World Cup champions of 2022, they are the main group in this one in Group J, and Leo Messi still playing, even though he was born like 1987. Anyway, Argentina World Cup champs in 1978 in front of their home country, in front of the military junta. 86, the hand of God led them to the winning position and all that. So yeah, so Messi proving that he's just as good as Maradona. And then you have Algeria, who in 1982 were robbed of a World Cup knockout game by Germany and Austria playing argy bargy, and that's why FIFA changed the rules that the final group stage games have to be at the same time. Yeah, Algeria's had some good moments and all that too. I think they got to the knockout stage of 2014, if memory serves me right. And then you got Austria. Speaking of the team that screwed Algeria, you got Austria. Austria did have a decent team. In 1938, they actually did have a team that could compete with Germany, but Germany was annexing Austria and basically took all the Austrian star players. 1954, they actually played Switzerland in the highest scoring game in World Cup history, 7-5. They were a decent team back in the 50s and all that, but they've lost their steam. They've had a few World Cup qualifications since then, 78 and 82, I remember off the top of my head. But yeah, Austria. And the fourth group is another debutante, and it's not the last debutante. It's the third of four debutantes, and it's Jordan, not Jordan Kappa, the guy I've known for many years. It's Jordan, the country, the Middle Eastern country that has had a few chances to make the World Cup but failed in like playoffs. But now they're in the World Cup. They're trying to prove everything going. I think that it will be Algeria who will sneak in ahead of Jordan for second place, automatically second place. Remember, it's the top two in each of the 12 groups plus 8 third place teams. But I think it's going to be Argentina and Algeria. All right, and then you got yourself Group K, Special K, and the main group guy from Special K is Portugal, a country that has not missed the World Cup since 1998. They've been to every World Cup since 2002. They've had some decent results and some poorest results. 1966, they shocked everyone by getting to the semifinals of the World Cup, losing to Germany and then losing to England in the third place. No, sorry, England beat Portugal for in the semis, and then Portugal took third place, I think. I know that Portugal was down 3-0 to Korea, North Korea, that is, in the quarterfinals, but won with Eusebio's stuff. 2002, they were expected to do well, but they fell to the Americans of all countries. 2006, they had that fight-filled thing with England and got Wayne Rooney sent off thanks to that CR7 and my hate of Portugal for many years. 2010, 2014, not much I can remember about that. I think CR7 is in this World Cup. Second team is Congo DR or the Democratic Republic of Congo. And a lot of people think, oh, they're debutantes. Actually, no. Surprisingly, no. They did appear in the World Cup, but under their different name. In 1974, they were known as Zaire, and that's when Mobutu the crazed African leader, was trying to put things on his players. Zaire famously lost 2-0 to Scotland, and 9-0 to Yugoslavia, and 3-0 to Brazil. And had that guy Milepu sent off for kicking the ball before Brazil could kick that. So yeah, it's the first time since '74, just like Haiti. You, the fourth debutant is Uzbekistan, who's actually held their own in Asian Cups. But yeah, Uzbekistan getting lucky with the expanded 48 team thing and moving on to the World Cup. So good for them. And Colombia, known for their powerhouse South American tactics. And of course, they were supposed to do well in '94 because of Pablo Escobar and his gang. Now that Andres Escobar, great player, but his own goal sunk Colombia in '94. Well, losing to Romania doesn't help matters either. Yeah, Colombia was drug fueled and all that. They were doing good for soccer. They even shocked Argentina in Argentina 5-0 in '94 qualifying. Yeah, Colombia has done well. Jaime Rodriguez with that bicycle kick against Uruguay. Was it Uruguay or was it Paraguay? Yeah, in 2014. Yeah, I think it was against Uruguay. But anyway, yeah. Um, I think it's going to be Portugal, and I think it's going to be Colombia. Like, I can't say anything. Congo and Uzbekistan will fight for third place. And finally, Group L. This is, of course, my favorite group because, all that. And I think this definitely is the group of death. If you want to know a group of deaths in the World Cup, this is definitely it. Group L, led by the two-time defending Euro losers in England, who have struggled in pre-tournament play and all that. But, the real thing comes in 2.5 months, so I wouldn't blame them. But yeah, England, I'm a true England supporter because my dad's side is English and all that. Diamond is English. And, you know, I'll talk more about England in a new World Cup stories coming up soon. But the fact of the matter is that England are a fantastic country and all that for World Cups, but just can't finish the big one. 1966, they won the World Cup in front of their home country. Of course, the controversy of Jeff Hurst's goal notwithstanding, England's had some massive heartbreaks and all that. They lost the quarters to France last time. You got Croatia, who have been a foreign in England's side many times. They actually ruined England's chances to qualify for Euro 2008. Thanks a lot, Paul Robinson. But yeah, Croatia beat England in the 2018 semifinals to get to the World Cup, and that was just shocking. I didn't think England would probably beat France, but it would have worth a shot. But yeah, Croatia has been always under everyone's skin. '98 broke off from Yugoslavia and actually took third place. Davin Suker was an icon in that tournament. And of course, they lost the final in 2018 to France. Ghana, the Black Stars, as they call them, they're a decent team too. 2010 World Cup on home turf, like home continent. They were so close to getting to the semis. They needed a Asamoah shot to go in over Uruguay, and he hit the crossbar. They lost the penalty shootout, and Uruguay got moving on. But yeah, Ghana and the Black Stars, you can't say enough about them. And finally, you have Panama. England faced Panama in 2018 as well. But yeah, Panama coming through a couple of World Cup campaigns. But yeah, Panama will be big. I mean, yeah, I think it's a group of death. I think England and Croatia definitely are in, but anything can happen. So those are your 12 groups in a nutshell and 48 teams, and we'll have fun with this series, I promise you. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.